Craven Bets here with Mike Craven, your financial advisor here for another college football weekend here in Craven's Corner, because on this corner,
we bank money.
That's right. Last week, about broke even, basically?
Yeah, I went 4-4-1 in the preview article. A couple bad beats, Baylor not covering even though they got to overtime. I really think that overhits in Austin if Quinn Ewers stays in the game. I think that becomes pointsy. So yeah, it was kind of a tough week, but week one still has us buoyed there. So I think we're 11-5-1 overall through 2 weeks.
Well, you know what? We're going to rally.
Yeah, we're rallying.
It's a big week here in college football. And your first pick catches my attention. What's first?
Let's go to the game I believe you will be at this week. You're taking Texas A&M -5 against Miami.
This would certainly be against the narrative. I'd say that much.
And that's, I mean, I've made a living off of betting against the public, right? Like, fade the public is the way to go. We overreact in the world. We overreact in the betting world. We definitely overreact in college football. Coming off that 17-14 win or loss to App State, I think the sky is falling in College Station, and everybody assumes that gambling-wise. They're still at home. It's going to be a night game. There's going to be 100,000+ people in there. Miami's not all that proven. They've struggled a couple times so far this year. So I think A&M has everything to play for this year. This is going to be the best we see A&M, because all week long their players are told they stink, and their head coach is told his offense is outdated. I'd imagine we see about as good of an offensive performance as A&M has. If they don't win this game, the wheels are really falling off. So I think A&M covers pretty easily, and I think this may approach the over also.
What's the over-under? Do you know?
I think it's like 50. Like, it's pretty low.
That's interesting, because this is, and because I think you make an interesting point of, like, when everyone's telling you one thing, there's some value in saying the other thing. I'm a little surprised they're a favorite, but at the same time, I think Miami's a good team. They're the best team they've played, but at the same time, I don't think they're some world beater. Like, there's much tougher tests ahead for A&M. But I think that maybe we're looking at this is a line that is more reflective, I think, of what people think of A&M right now as opposed to what people.
I mean, if A&M beats App State last week, this is an 8-point game. You know, so I'm getting 3 free points here. You know, they just got to win by a touchdown. And Miami's best on offense. Well, A&M's good defensively. Nobody's going to sit here and argue that A&M's not good defensively. They can score 28, 31 points. I think they win this game by over 5, and I think you see different quarterback play. I think you see a better offensive performance, because it has to be better than it was last week.
Can't possibly be worse. What's next, Pickle?
Up next, we are going the Roadrunners. You're going to go +11 against Texas.
All right. So Texas, this feels like maybe you're doing the same thing, although, of course, we have a lot of faith in UTSA. We think that they're a pretty darn good program. That was a gutty win last week at West Point. But +11 on the road at Texas, I
think it's the same thing, but the opposite for A&M. Like, the reason that A&M is -5 is because of how much people are jumping off the A&M bandwagon. Well, the reason that this is 11 points is because people think Texas is super, super good after only losing by 1 point to Alabama. I think they're somewhere in the middle. I don't think they're as good as they played last week. I don't think they're as bad as they were last year. But they may have Charles Wright starting at quarterback. They may run a lot of Wildcat. I don't think they score a lot of points against this UTSA defense. I think UTSA's offense is pretty good. They're going to have a better wide receiver core than Alabama brought to Austin, right? Like, at least a more explosive, more reliable wide receiver core. I think Texas plays down a little bit when they're playing these type of opponents. You just got up for this big Alabama game. There's 105,000 people in the stands. ESPN the game day's there. You play really well, but you lose. What happens the next week? The last 10 years suggest Texas doesn't play up to their competition every single week. I think UTSA is back against the wall. They know they don't stand a chance in this game. I think they play really, really well.
Well, I think they're going to come out with a game plan that's going to empty the bag, because this is, for what UTSA wants to do and what Jeff Traylor wants to do. This is a scalp. You know what I mean? There's a scalp out there for them, and they're going to give them everything they got.
And UTSA's thought about this game for 11 years. Right? Like, Texas probably hadn't thought about this game for 11 hours.
Yeah.
Right? And that plays a factor. And then you add in the quarterback stuff. I think UTSA can keep this within, single digits.
What's next, Pickle?
Up next, you are taking New Mexico +3 over the Miners of UTEP.
I can see the place where you jumped off the bandwagon, and I can see your footprints running into the desert You're fully off the UTEP bandwagon.
Yeah, I mean, I took UTEP plus 14 last week against New Mexico State. They're up 17-0, and it's like, okay, this is an easy cover.
Go to bed.
UTEP's back, right? I'll change this over to the Baylor-BYU game that didn't start until midnight or whatever time it started. And then you look back, and New Mexico State makes a quarterback change. All of a sudden, UTEP can't score any points, and they're right back in the game. If that game lasts 5 quarters, New Mexico State wins it, right? So, I'd almost lean New Mexico money line this week against UTEP. Like you just said, I think I've jumped fully off the bandwagon. I think there's something wrong going on in UTEP.
Yeah, I think the offense, there's officially cause for concern.
I underestimated how much the loss of Jacob Cowing and Justin Garrett would impact that offense. They're excellent, and they just have not been able to replace it. Gavin Hardison does not look the same without those guys.
I think you're right. What's next, Pickle?
And finally, let's keep it over there in the western part of the world. We'll go NC State. You're taking them -10 versus the Red Raiders of Texas Tech.
Going on the road to North Carolina to take on a still nationally ranked NC State team, and 10-point favorites. This feels like a real litmus test for where Texas Tech's kind of rebuild is.
Right. Kind of like we were talking about with the A&M game. I feel like this is a line that would have been closer to 14.5 before the season started. NC State hasn't looked as dominant as a lot of people thought they would be. Texas Tech with the big win at home last week in double overtime against Houston. I kind of feel like it's gonna even out a little bit this week. This is the first real road game for Texas Tech under Joey McGuire. Donovan Smith threw 3 interceptions last week. Like we just mentioned, they played some extra snaps in double overtime. I think this is a get-right game for NC State, and they play pretty well and win this one by 2 touchdowns-ish.
We were talking before we came on the air, though, that for that game for Tech against Houston was so important for them for a myriad of reasons. Most notably, that it becomes a lot easier to count 6 wins for them. I don't think anybody really expects the line to. People don't expect them to win this game, but if they can stay competitive in this game and keep it, if they can cover basically, then for Texas Tech the arrow's still pointing very much up.
I mean, Joey McGuire's job this year is to make a bowl game and to keep momentum going, not only in the fan base but in that locker room. Like, hey guys, look, we're on the right path here. You don't have to win all these games to do that, but if you're competitive and you're close, especially on the road against a nationally ranked team, you can go back in that locker room and be like, see guys, I told you, even with a backup quarterback, week 3 after a double overtime game last week, come in here and we play with anybody. I think that's what Joey's trying to get done this week or this year, and if he can do it again this week, I think it just keeps building and building and building. I love it.
It's Craven Bets with our financial advisor, Mike Craven, here in Craven's Corner, because in this corner,
we make money.
Hey, thanks for watching this clip here on YouTube. If you like this kind of stuff and you want more of it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, you can watch us live every weekday at noon at TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, or here on YouTube. And if you want more of the best coverage of football in the state of Texas, check out TexasFootball.com and become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider at TexasFootball.com/subscribe.